Thanks guys for having me tonight. My name is Kristyn Slick with Classroom Kitchen, and we are here today to talk about building charcuterie boards. We are going to be building a summer themed charcuterie board, but basically all of the principles I teach you tonight can be applied to any seasonal board. I can also explain to you, if you would like, along the way, just how I would change it up for seasons. But we're going to look at summer seasonal today because obviously we're in the heart of summer. Again, my name is Kristyn Slick with Classroom Kitchen, and I've been a cooking instructor since 2015. My hometown is New Lenox, and so I'm super excited to be presenting tonight with New Lenox Public Library. I've lived here since I was 9 years old, so I'm really happy to be working with you guys in my hometown. So if you see me around town, make sure you say hi. All right, so let's dig into charcuterie. So there are lots of elements to charcuterie, and before everyone got on tonight or watching the recording, there's a lot of prep to it. So I always like to get everything prepped before I actually start building my board. Okay, so I kind of list out all the ingredients that I want to based on the 6 elements of a charcuterie board, based on what season it is, and I lay it all out in front of me. Everything is open and out and cut and accessible, so that when I go to build the charcuterie board, because it is an art, you have everything at your fingertips. It's kind of like painting a picture without having any paints in front of you, and you're just kind of opening as you go. I really like to have everything out and open in front of me so that I remember all of the ingredients, and also I can kind of play with the ingredients as I build the charcuterie board. Okay, so what is a charcuterie board? Basically, charcuterie is a French culinary tradition preparing meats like salami and prosciutto. Yes, originally it was a meat board. Meat was the front and center. Sometimes there were a couple other elements to it. Today, you see meat kind of blended in to a lot of other cheese and antipasto ingredients. We have sweet, salty, briny extras that really provide us a brilliant balance and give us a chance to try unexpected combinations. Basically, it's a fancy adult Lunchable, way more delicious and way more sophisticated. A lot more options, and it's going to be much more satisfying than any kind of thing that you can buy from the refrigerated section at the grocery store. So when do you make charcuterie? Really, you can break out the charcuterie board anytime you want to impress. It's traditionally served as an appetizer, but it can be an equally strong stand-in for dinner parties. If you were to do it for a dinner party, you want to have about 3 to 4 ounces of meat and 3 to 4 ounces of cheese per person available for your charcuterie board. So again, if it's a dinner party and it's a stand-in for dinner, you're going to go 3 to 4 ounces of meat, 3 to 4 ounces of cheese for your charcuterie board. Now, are you going to put all of this on your board at one time? No, you're not going to necessarily have, say you have, 4 to 5 people. You're not going to have a pound of meat and cheese sitting on your charcuterie board at any given time. Usually this is a grazing kind of affair, so you can refill your charcuterie board. I'm also a really big proponent of refilling your charcuterie board as things are eaten off of it for food safety. Usually charcuterie boards are placed on something like cutting boards and wood boards and butcher paper and things like that. And so there's really not a lot of food safety there. So it's nice to be able to keep things refrigerated and pull them out as you're using them or as they are being eaten. Also, it's great for leftovers. So if you have something that you put out, say today we're actually going to be adding to our charcuterie board these cheese ball truffles, say those end up not being a big hit. Well, guess what? You don't waste all 16, 17, 20, whatever you made out on your charcuterie board. You can actually keep them refrigerated and use them for leftovers for yourself. So again, I'm a big proponent of just filling the charcuterie board as things are dwindling on it. If it is served as an appetizer, you're going to go about 1 to 2 ounces of meat and cheese per person, plus all of your extra goodies. Okay, so if it's being served as kind of just to like whet your appetite, then you're definitely only going to go 1 to 2 ounces. If it's going to be a dinner party stand-in, 3 to 4 ounces. Again, even for the appetizer portion, you don't need to fill the charcuterie board till it's bursting at the seams and you have all your food out at one time. You can definitely refill as needed. Now, the variety and textures of flavors of charcuterie boards allow our guests to pick and choose what they want and really create some awesome DIY elements. It also gives them a chance to try things that they might not otherwise have tried. So again, like our cheese ball truffles that are out tonight, that might be something that they wouldn't have normally tried, and they get a chance to try it. Or like I have sugar snap peas. They can grab a few of those. Maybe that's not something they typically buy for themselves. It's something to enjoy and appreciate at your gathering. Now, since boards are 100% customizable, you can serve them any time of year for any occasion. Charcuterie is especially great personally in the summer and holiday time. And the reason I say summer and holiday time is, number one, summer, we like to entertain. I mean, it is a beautiful evening out and my kids are out running and playing, and it would be terrible for me to have to call them in to, sit this like hot served dinner. It's really fun to put out a charcuterie board and let them graze on food as they're running and playing and enjoying the summer weather. Okay. And it's, again, less likely a time that we're going to cook. Another great thing is they don't have to be super fancy meat and cheese boards. We are going to do a traditional charcuterie board tonight. However, you can make them whatever you want them to be. You can make them into taco charcuterie boards and nacho charcuterie boards and PB&J charcuterie boards. That was actually one of my family's most favorite charcuterie board I've ever put together for them. It was during baseball season in the fall, and we were a little bit, I wouldn't say short on time, but it wasn't like I wanted to be in the hot kitchen. It was still pretty warm out because it was fall ball, and I didn't really want to cook. So instead of just slapping PB&J on a plate for them, I actually created a PB&J charcuterie board on a big Lazy Susan that I have, and I just made a bunch of peanut butter and jellies. I filled in the gaps with fish crackers and grapes and potato chips and cheese sticks and anything that we really had and would have served for dinner that night. And the family had a great time spinning the wheel and eating all kinds of things. My husband kind of rolled his eyes at me when I first put it together, but I'm going to say I don't think he ate less than 3 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches total that night. So plus everything else that was on the board. So they can be really anything that you want them to be. The other great time to do them is during holiday times. And the reason I say that is because it's a really easy and elegant way to feed a whole bunch of people. Especially when you use that 1 to 2 ounce or 3 to 4 ounce kind of rule of thumb. And you, again, can spread it out among several charcuterie boards. You can have a giant big piece of butcher paper out with different items labeled, or you can just do more like small plate kind of things. So it's really up to you. And I think that's where people get a little bit intimidated with charcuterie boards, because there is this kind of gray area to charcuterie boards. But that's what kind of makes it fun once you learn the 6 elements I'm going to teach you. Now, how do you choose a charcuterie board? It can be anything you want it to be. Again, some gray area. I like to use my wooden cutting board. This is actually flipped upside down, my wooden cutting board. I have a really awesome, cute Lazy Susan set that I received for Christmas one year. So this is a cute little Lazy Susan. You can use, I don't know if you see on top of my refrigerator back here, but I have like a wicker basket up here. Sometimes I use that if I have hot elements that I want to serve within the charcuterie board. You can use different plates. You can level your charcuterie boards, or layer your charcuterie boards. You can have it one big piece of butcher paper. You can have big platters. You can have small plates. Really, whatever you want it to be, whatever your vision is. Pinterest is a wealth of beauty for you to figure out your inspiration for a charcuterie board. Anytime I have a seasonal charcuterie board, I just type that into Pinterest and I just get inspired. What are people using? What ingredients are they doing? How are they arranging? I take all of those ideas in, and then I apply it to my own charcuterie board and the things that I have in this area and in my home. Okay. Now, if you do love this style of eating and you do want to really get involved with it, you don't need like a complete charcuterie board set, but if you need to tell your spouse that the charcuterie board cooking instructor said that you need a full charcuterie board set, then I totally get it, and I can be your cop out, okay? Amazon has tons of charcuterie board sets, and by sets, I mean that they're trays with little drawers of little charcuterie board, cute little spoons and spreaders and cheese markers and all kinds of really cute stuff. There's ones that fold out, so you have like additional levels, and there's just a lot of really cool variety out there. So if that is something that you are interested in or you want to do more of, there's plenty of charcuterie board sets out there for you as well. And they're very nice and compact and easy to store. Lots of different kinds of materials besides wood. This is my medium. I like the wood look, but you can go slate and you can go like more industrial looking, whatever fits your vision. Okay. So that's a little bit about what charcuterie board is, what charcuterie is, when to make it, how to pick a charcuterie board. So let's actually get now into the 6 elements of a charcuterie board. And then we're actually going to build 2 of them together, one savory and one sweet. Okay. So the first thing that we want on our charcuterie board, going with tradition, is meat. Okay. So the first thing is meat. We want cured sausages and we want whole muscle cuts on our board. That's kind of the big overarching theme to them. And so when you go and make your list, you know you need meat on there and you know you need a little bit of variety of meat. I only went with 2 meats today. I went with a salami and a ham because I'm focusing more actually on some fresh elements and some cheeses. So again, you can balance it more heavy meats, more heavy cheeses, kind of in between, you know, a little bit of each, totally up to you. When I say cured sausage and whole muscle cuts, this is what I mean. It doesn't have to be super fancy. You could go as simple as pepperoni and salami. I mean, that is the beginner's version of a cured sausage. There's tons of other international flavors out there too. You can do like a spicy sopressata or a dry cured chorizo, lots of different things. When I do boards, again, you're going to kind of see a theme here. I try to go with a similar international flavor. So I have salami, I have ham, I have Parmesan cheese. I try to kind of go and match those meats and cheeses a little bit together. Okay. So you're going to see some of those common elements, kind of American in my summer board today, but my fall and winter board, sometimes they lean a little bit more Mediterranean, a little bit more Italian, a little bit, you know, you can really play with those flavors as well. So first one, meats, cured sausage, like I said, salami, pepperoni, chorizo, sopressata, and then whole muscle cuts. Whole muscle cuts are things like prosciutto, bresaola, capicola, smoked ham. You want you want both rich and spicy meats on the platter. So I went again with a salami and a pretty recognizable ham. It's literally a boiled ham. Okay. If you've ever heard of it, it's Crocus ham. I also like to make my boards look super accessible, meaning if people come up to my board, they're not going to be intimidated by the ingredients on it. They're going to want to actually eat it. No, it's not just a centerpiece. We actually are going to eat the food off of it. So I do like to include, yes, some really fun, different things on there, like these cheese ball truffles I'm going to show you. But I also have elements on there that people are like, oh, I totally know that's salami and I'm going to like that. Oh, I totally know that is sharp cheddar cheese. I'm going to like that. And then maybe I'll try 1 or 2 of these other things on here. Okay. So I like, again, them to be approachable and not too far off of what my audience wants as well. Okay. So that's number 1, meats. Number 2, we want something bready. And by that, I mean crostini, breadsticks, crackers, something that's going to add a little texture and crunch. For mine tonight, I included some pita crackers because one of my dippers is a hummus. So I wanted something that was easily dipped in hummus. I also did a grilled breads, like a grilled baguette. That's the word I'm looking for. And I did just make that a little crunchy and toasty. So we're going to put that out on the board as well. And that's going to be really nice with our hummus or to layer some meats and cheeses on as well. Okay, so that's number 2, something bready. We have meat, we have something bready. And then number 3, we have something sweet. Now I'm not going to focus too much on the sweet on this savory board because we're actually making an exclusive sweets board. I am going to add a couple extra elements on here that will kind of help balance some of the flavors, but I didn't put anything too heavy and sweet on here. Something sweet that I would suggest are things like dried fruit, spreadable jam, chutney, strawberries, grapes you see oftentimes on charcuterie boards. Basically, it's on there to help really balance those salty, fatty meats. Okay, so we're going to be eating a lot of salt and fat. You want something a little sweeter and a little bit acidic kind of sometimes with that fatty, salty meat. That leads me to my next thing is something briny. And this is going to be in a bright acidic flavor, something like olives or pickles or grainy mustard. I'm just thinking grainy mustard, you can make an amazing like Oktoberfest board with pretzels and cheese and grainy mustard. You could do, I do all olives oftentimes in my winter and spring boards when I kind of go a little heavier Mediterranean. And then tonight we're going to actually use pickles. I mean, pickles scream summer to me. I don't know about you guys, but my family, my kids love having a variety of pickles in the fridge. We typically at any given time have probably about 3 different kinds of pickles sitting in our fridge for whatever mood you might be in, right? Like a more spicy one, a more kind of like hamburger dill pickle. And then we have sometimes like a Clausen pickle, because there's a big difference in my family between a hamburger pickle and a hot dog pickle. Okay. So I just cut up some like kosher dill spears for this. You can use hamburger chips. You can use little gherkin pickles if you like that kind of like bread and butter kind of taste as well. But something bright and acidic will really, again, pair well with the meat. Number 5, my favorite part of the board, cheese. That is my favorite part. So I am going heavier on the cheese today. We're just going to do a sharp cheddar cheese, a yellow sharp cheddar cheese. And the reason I chose yellow specifically was just to kind of break up the color a little bit. We're going to do a Parmesan cheese wedge as well, in addition to our cheese ball truffles, which you should have the recipe for as well. Now, charcuterie does revolve around meat. Cheese is equally important too. And you will see that I did try to pair our regional meats and cheeses like the Parmigiano Reggiano with the salami. The cheddar kind of goes with the ham. That's very like an American thing, right? And then we have our cheese ball truffles, which are a bacon and blue cheese and pistachio thing, which again is an amazing combination and something that is, again, very American. To add a little bit more texture and flavor, make sure that you have a mixture of soft, hard, and strong cheeses as well. So don't just go for just very mild cheeses. Again, let your guests decide how they want to build their plates and give them the choice and the opportunity to do that. I have something hard and kind of strong, which is in the Parmesan. I have something definitely more recognizable, which is the cheddar. And then I have a soft cheese with a pungent undertone to it with the blue cheese inside of it. So all kind of different levels of cheese available. The last part, number 6, is something crunchy. Now you're like, well, you already said crunch with the bread. That's not where I'm going with this. I'm actually going for something nutty. Okay. So you want to include more crunch on your board. You can include some nuts, mix it up with pistachios, pecans, almonds. You can do a trail mix. You can do glazed nuts. I often do that during the holiday time, where I do kind of a candied nut. You can also do, there's like dried chickpeas and different dried or different flavored nuts. So like I was just at Costco, and their pistachio one, there was like a chili lime one. You can include different flavors of nuts on your board. It doesn't have to just be straight up plain salted nuts. Okay. It can be all different kinds. Now I didn't go for like an actual cup of crunchy nuts tonight, because some of my cheese balls are actually rolled in pistachios. So that's going to kind of cover that crunchy base when we put together our charcuterie board. All right. So our 6 elements, just to recap, we have meat, which includes cured sausage and whole muscle cuts. We have something bready. We have something sweet, something briny, something cheesy, and something crunchy. Okay, so our 6 elements. So when you're looking at your charcuterie board, you're going to list out those 6 elements. Okay, what theme am I going with? What season am I in? Okay, what's in season? What fruits and vegetables are in season? And then underneath each category, you can kind of list those out. And then now is the time to put together your beautiful charcuterie board after, of course, you've prepped it. So I'm just going to show you really quick my prepping area. And like I said, this is going to come together relatively quickly because everything is prepped. It's just a little bit of finagling, a little bit of art. Again, you wouldn't paint a canvas without having your paints out. You need to have your tools out in order to build a charcuterie board. So this is kind of what my area looks like right now. So you see I have like my meats out, my cheeses, some veggies, some crackers. As you move down, I have kind of thing measured and weighed out. I have kind of a board of sweets down here. I have my grapes. On my back stovetop, I have a pan with my grilled bread. I have some grilled mushrooms back there as well. So again, everything is already prepped and ready, and all I have to do is assemble it, okay? So were there any questions before I move on to actually putting the board together? We're good? Awesome. All right. So I'm going to kind of do an over the head shot for you guys. And we're just going to kind of put it together based on those 6 elements. And I'll talk you guys through it. And you can kind of see, again, there's no right or wrong to this. Okay. And you'll see that I kind of did some artistic interpretation with it in the sense that I didn't exactly have like nuts, but I have nuts over here. And I didn't do something super sweet because I have a sweet board that we're going to be building. Okay. So kind of those elements. So let me drop you over the top here. I have my salami laid out because I'll explain that to you in just a second. I don't want you to be like, why does she have salami laid out like all over her countertop? All right. So what I like to do first is I like to build out my meats and cheeses, because the meats and cheeses are the balance to our board. Okay. They are supposed to kind of be the foundation to the board, and then we can go back and fill in everything else. So I'm going to take my really big Parmesan wheel here, or my Parmesan wedge, and that's going to go in one corner. Super duper easy. If you didn't know, this part back here, it kind of looks waxy. You can actually cut this part off and you freeze it and actually use it in soups and stews, and it adds a lot of great flavor. So you can actually cut that waxy part off and then just use this. I like the element there, that color, so I leave it on for the charcuterie board, but then I save it for later as well. So that's going to go on one corner. The other corner, I'm going to put some of my cheddar, which again, I just already cut, and I actually cut it kind of into different sizes, so people have the opportunity to pick kind of, you know, really what size piece of cheese that they want. I also like to stack my food. So again, it makes it, it's not all like laid flat and it's hard for people to pick up. I like it so that it's easy for people to pick up and create their board, and it looks kind of rustic, but also very inviting. The middle part of my board, I'm actually going to go to my freezer for these because these have been sitting in here kind of setting up. These are these little cheese ball truffles I sent you guys the recipe for. So I pre-made them just so that they had a time to firm up in the freezer. Half of them I rolled in pistachios. The other half I left plain. And I actually stuck a pretzel stick in them so that when they are sitting out on the charcuterie board, they're super easy to handle. And people can use them as a spreader, or they can use them as, they can literally pick them up and eat them kind of like a caramel apple. So these, I'm actually gonna pop these off my plate, and I'm gonna kind of arrange these in the center of my board. The Midwest is famous for cheese balls. Okay, that's actually where cheese balls kind of originated, which I didn't know if you know or not, but cheese balls are kind of a Midwest thing. So oftentimes I just broke my pretzel, yikes. Oftentimes I have cheese balls on my charcuterie board. It is something we always have at family parties, and people just love them. So oftentimes I include them because it is a familiar thing to my family. You can make any kind of cheese ball. I really like this one with the blue cheese and the crumbled bacon. Again, just sounded delicious. And I thought the added crunch of the pistachio would really elevate it a little bit. So if you'll notice, I have a couple of these left. I don't have to overload my board with them. These can just go back right in the fridge. If we run out of them, then I can refill them. If we don't, then I have leftovers, right? Where people haven't been touching them or trying to finagle with them. Instead, we now have a nice board of just a nice little smorgasbord of different cheeses here. So we'll put those in the back there. I'm just going to wipe my fingers because they kind of got stuck to my plate a little bit. I did have them in the freezer, so they set up a little quicker for me. Okay, so that recipe was included. Again, in the winter time, I like to do cheese balls with like cranberries and almonds. In the summertime, or sorry, in the fall last year, I did an everything bagel seasoning cheese ball, and that was like went over so well. So if you guys want any of those recipes, feel free to email me. My email's on the bottom of your recipes. If you don't have it, it's Kristyn@makingmealtimememories.com. And you can email me if you want any of the other cheese ball recipes. Okay. So from here, we're going to add our meats. Now, like I said, I only have 2 meats today. just because it's just what I felt like, okay? And again, I made meats that were very accessible. So we're gonna just take some of the Caracas ham here, and I'm gonna roll it just like I roll it for my kids, okay? And we're just gonna place them in the corner and kind of build like a little log cabin in the corner here with our Caracas ham. Again, super familiar to people, easy to recognize. People love it. It's always eaten, not super expensive, and super easy to find. Okay, so you don't have to go in search of those really, really fancy meats if you don't want them on your board. Okay, so we have our nice ham over here. On this side, we're going to do some salami. However, I am going to show you guys how to do a salami rose because those are fun. Okay, so a salami rose is you're going to take a stemless wine glass. Okay, I like the stemless one because they're often taller and they're tapered really nicely. Make sure you have a glass that is tapered and it's not straight up and down or it's not flared out. Your salami rose or whatever kind of meat rose you do will not work very well if it's not tapered inward, okay? So what we're gonna do is take our salami, and this is why I had it laying all over, is it was still very cold from the fridge. I like working with a little bit less cold salami because it's more flexible. I know that sounds so weird that you're like working with salami, but we're making art with food, right? So you're gonna take your salami and you're gonna lay it halfway over the side of the glass. So just half and half over the side, the rim of the glass. You're gonna take your next piece and you're gonna overlap it by half and just curl it over the side as well. Now, if you had really cold salami, this wouldn't fold very well. So that's why you need to kind of let it warm up a little. So I kind of had it spread out on the counter so it would warm up under kind of the lights a little bit. And we're just going to keep going around and around the glass until we have a pretty firm rose or pretty firm rose that we've formed around the rim of our glass. And I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's turned over. I like to make like 2 of these if I am going with the salami rose route. One stays in the fridge in case I run out of my salami rose, and the other one gets presented to everyone. Okay, so you'll know it's full when there's not a very big hole in the middle anymore. All you'll do is kind of push it around the top with your palm. When you turn it over, you have a salami rose. Isn't that fun and easy? I know, mind blown, right? So very, very easy. Again, I like to make 2 of these, one that goes right on the edge of my charcuterie board, and the other one I just keep in the fridge, okay? And how people serve themselves with the salami rose, if you notice in the very inside, I can take like the very first piece that we laid and they just start pulling it apart, okay? So super, super easy. Once people kind of like, people are always like, well, how do they know how to take it apart? I'm like, well, you kind of show like 1 or 2 people and then word gets passed around, right? So word gets kind of passed around on how you're supposed to like, you know, deconstruct the salami rose. So that'll sit in the corner. Again, a really fun way to present some food, okay? So far we have 3 cheeses, 2 meats. If I had another meat, you can even do, you don't even have to do lunch meat. You can do chicken skewers, shrimp skewers. I've done turkey meatballs on a Greek board before. You can do slices of roast beef. You can do the prosciutto and the soppressata and those kind of traditional charcuterie board meats, or you can make it your own, okay? So it doesn't have to necessarily be what you see on Pinterest. You can make it your own or to your own flavors. If you know you have a lot of people that don't have very sophisticated tastes, then, you know, make it so that it's again, edible by them. So from here, we have our first 2 elements. Then what we're gonna do is I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna just place some of my cups that I have filled. So like our pickles, I'm gonna put my pickles kind of over here by the ham and the cheese because it kind of fits over there, right? And this kind of like the less fancy side, maybe the little more fancy side, we'll put our hummus on that side, okay? So we have our cups stacked in there. Now what we can do is come in here with some additional ingredients and we kind of fill in the spots, okay? So I have a pan here that I originally wanted to actually grill some asparagus, and the asparagus I picked up from Aldi today was disgusting. Like I actually asked for a refund on my Instacart app for it. So I tossed that. It was super gross and I just stuck with the mushrooms. Otherwise, I would have had grilled asparagus on here as well. So I just took some mushrooms, I wiped them down with a paper towel, a wet paper towel, You don't want to submerge mushrooms. You don't want them to take on any more moisture than they already have. So you'll just wipe the dirt off with a damp paper towel. And then I just lightly grilled them. If you grill them too hot and too much, they will be very soggy, okay? So you just want like a light toast on them, kind of like we just have like a light toast on our baguette, okay? Just enough to add a little bit of flavor and color to them. And I'm gonna go ahead and throw in some of my mushrooms. I really like to mirror my charcuterie boards as well, which basically means whatever I do on one side, I kind of end up doing on the other side in a certain way. So if you notice, I have my meats that are anchored, I have my cheeses down the middle, I have my cups that are kind of anchored, and now I'm starting to add mushrooms to either side. I also am going to come in and add some of my baguette slices to either side as well. Again, I like to kind of stack and stagger so then people, again, can come in easily, grab what they want, and it's not just spread out all over the place. Next, I'm going to add in some of more color. I'm going to do some just some tomatoes. And actually, I'm going to move these back to the corners a little bit more so that because the tomatoes aren't sliced, they're little cherry tomatoes, and I don't want them to roll off the edge. So we're going to add some tomatoes in here. We're going to add some sugar snap peas. The sugar snap peas are not only in season, but they are also a nice bright green. So they add a little bit more interest to our board. I'm going to add some pita crackers. So I'm actually at this point, do you see I'm like, oh, no, I'm going to finagle this around a little bit. I'm going to move the mushrooms over so that the crackers and the bread aren't right next to each other. So again, I'm just going to move these over so I kind of have some separation there. And basically, if you notice, it's mirrored because people can kind of grab from any edge that they want to on the board then. Okay, so we have our sauce, we have our meat, we have our bread, we have our briny, we have our cheese, our crunchy is the nuts. So the only thing we're missing is something sweet. And I'm going to add in some grapes. I have purple and green grapes. I like to come in with my kitchen scissors and just cut the stems so that they are nice, like little pickable little grape pieces. And these not only will add some color, but again, will add some just contrast to the flavors that are going on across your charcuterie board. Add in one more. And you'll notice it's not overly full, but I also don't necessarily see the board either, okay? So it's not so full that it's falling off the edges, but it's not so scarce that you can see the whole the board looks bare. So this is our summer charcuterie board. What do you guys think? Did that come together? Did it make sense? Thank you very much. So I hope it made sense to you and you kind of saw all those elements being built out, and it makes more sense to you when you see a charcuterie board like this. You're like, well, how did they decide to put all this stuff on there? Now you know there's 6 basic elements, and as long as you kind of mirror it, you're going to fill your charcuterie board and it's going to just look so beautiful. Okay. If I did have another cup of nuts and maybe say like a fruit jam or something like that, I'd probably shift my mushrooms to over here with the veggies and add some more cups on those edges as well. So the cups I kind of put on the edges as well. So when people go grab them, they're not like dragging jam all over the top of the board. It's kind of more off of a corner. Okay. I've also started doing more of like the cheese ball bites rather than a full cheese ball. So it's kind of like an individual portion instead of like a giant cheese ball sitting in the middle where everyone's trying to use a spreader to get at it. Okay. So that's kind of my other little solution that I've learned over the times of putting together charcuterie boards. Okay. So that's our classic charcuterie board. Now I want to just show you quickly how to do a really fun dessert board, which is why this one isn't super sweet because we have lots of sweet on the other board. Okay. So we're going to move this one just up into the side. And we're going to work with this little guy here. This is my Lazy Susan that I absolutely love. You'll notice I have 2 bowls on here, and I'm going to follow some of the same principles of a classic charcuterie board and those 6 elements, but in kind of a dessert board fashion. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna anchor our board, just like we anchored our board up here with meats and cheeses, we're gonna anchor our board with dessert dips, okay? So regardless of what season you find me making a dessert board, it will have dips on it, because what is more fun than dipping yummy sweet things into more yummy sweet things, okay? So I pre-made 2 dips for you guys. I did include those recipes for you. We made a cannoli dip and a pistachio pineapple dip, which to me, again, screams summer. The cannoli dip is something my mom would always bring to family gatherings because it was super fun to eat and really easy to make. And the pistachio pineapple dip is bright green. I mean, you can't even pass that up for summertime, okay? So these are just really fun, easy dips. Of course, the base is gonna be cream cheese. Luckily, there's not a cream cheese shortage right now like there was over the holiday time. So all I'm gonna do is I made 1 big batch of this, and I'm just gonna fill some bowls with it. Again, not putting out all of it, okay? I easily have a ton left over because, again, if you have leftovers, you want to enjoy them yourself, not with all the stuff that people were touching. So that's our cannoli dip. And then this is our pistachio pineapple dip. So the cannoli dip, if you don't have the recipes in front of you, is cream cheese, ricotta cheese, just like a real cannoli, and powdered sugar and vanilla. And then I kind of just mixed in some chocolate chips. And actually, I'm going to add a couple more chocolate chips to the top just to kind of give it a little bit more presentation. And then the other dip, the pineapple pistachio dip, is cream cheese again, a cup of crushed pineapple with its juice, a box of pistachio pudding mix, and some vanilla yogurt. You can also add coconut to the top of this. My family, well, I am, but the rest of them are not huge fans of coconut, so I left it off, but toasted coconut on the top here would be delicious. And then I just add some little serving spoons. So this is kind of like the meat and cheese part of our board, okay? So from here, we're gonna add in some fun dippers. Now, I don't typically, it's not like we're gonna add something like briny to our board, okay? But we are, and we're gonna add a ton of sweet. But I am gonna kind of include like the bready elements and kind of like those like different kinds of fruits that you can dip with, so that way you can kind of see it all come together. Again, I'm going to balance my board by mirroring the different elements. So the one thing I like to use, especially for the cannoli dip, are sugar cones. You can also use waffle cones, but the sugar cones are a little smaller and they're really, really fun to stand up on your board. Okay, so I'm going to use some sugar cones on either end. People can break them apart themselves, or they can fill the cone with dip and eat it right out of the cone, however they see fit. I've seen it both ways. The other thing I like to use a lot is sliced pound cake, okay? Pound cake is just a really easy, yummy thing to put out. You can cut it in squares or long rectangles. And so I just cut a bunch of long rectangles to kind of use as a dipper. And we're, again, just gonna add them to either side of the board for either of the dips. You don't need to overload it, remember. So it doesn't need to be like the whole pound. I have actually, this was only of one of the Sara Lee like pound cakes. That's how much I cut for my board. Okay, so it's not even a lot. I have a ton left over that I can refreeze and use for a later board, or cut more up if I need to. The other thing that people always forget about are Nilla wafers. You cannot pass up a good Nilla wafer. They are the perfect dipper. So even if you didn't want to make a plate of this, you literally can come in here and scoop up some deliciousness on a Nilla wafer, okay? So I like to sprinkle these in here as well. Oh, these remind me of childhood, like 110%. So, so good. And then the last thing my kids love when I add these to my boards are Rice Krispie treats. Again, a perfect dipper and really handheld, super fun, very classic, easy to handle, and really fun to dip. So I'm gonna add these kind of across the middle. And I just took a Rice Krispie treat and literally cut them in half, okay? So they were more of a dipper rather than a whole Rice Krispie treat. Now this looks pretty brown, right? I mean, we have lots of crunchy elements on here, some like bready elements. We have obviously the sweet, but we're kind of missing like the briny part. So the briny part's actually gonna come in the form of some strawberries. And the strawberries are going to add some nice color to the board, some nice texture. And if people are trying to be healthy, they can grab a strawberry instead of one of these other delicious dipper items. So we're just going to add these across the board a little bit, kind of make it a little artsy. But you can kind of see, based on a dessert board, we're kind of using the same 6 elements, okay? It's just kind of thought of in a different way. So what do you guys think of the dessert board? That look good? So I did eat dinner, but I did not eat dessert yet. So this is coming upstairs with me. This is my studio kitchen down here. This is coming upstairs with me, and my family and I are going to enjoy some dessert here. So I don't know, guys. I think we did a pretty good job. We have the beautiful dessert board. We have the beautiful classic board. Now, who needs to pay all that money for somebody else to make a board for you guys? No, you guys know how to do it now, right? All of this stuff I bought at Aldi today. I went there, both boards, and I have tons of leftovers. Cost me, I think, $48. And that was including the asparagus that I tossed. So it was not bad. This would absolutely feed tons of people. Easily, probably 4 to 6 people would easily, this would be definitely a dinner fill-in for them, plus dessert. So definitely easy to not spend a ton of money to entertain a lot of people this summer. A lot of this doesn't even need to, I mean, if you have it out in the hot summer sun, that's different, but this could easily sit on your countertop for a couple hours and you can refill it as we go. Okay. So again, about $48 at Aldi. Aldi is a great place too. And I can talk locally to you guys because they have a lot of really cool meat and cheese options that are really low price compared to maybe specialty stores. So definitely check that section out if you guys are interested in that. Okay. Did you guys have any other questions tonight for charcuterie boards? Or do you feel like everything's pretty covered?
No, I love the salami flour.
Good. It's a nice surprise, isn't it?
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And then if you guys want, I am on Facebook at Classroom Kitchen. You guys, I always post the finished like pictures of what I did with any library. So feel free to go give that a shout out. I also, on my website, makingmealtimememories.com, I have a newsletter I send out every week. It goes out on Friday afternoons. Not only does it have a 4 or 5 day meal plan of what I actually cook with my own family, but it also talks about like this class and any upcoming classes I might have as well. So feel free to go to my website, makingmealtimememories.com. The very top, there's a button that says like sign up for the newsletter. You just click that, sign your first name and your email address, and every Friday afternoon I'll hit your inbox. Okay, so feel free to stay in touch with me that way as well. Awesome.
That's great.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I really enjoyed my time with you. I can't wait to see if you guys create any awesome creations, and I hope you feel more confident about creating these charcuterie boards too.
It's great.
Thank you, Kristen.
Very welcome. I hope to be back again soon, guys. See you later.